Good night, sweet dreams. That's what my dad would say to me. But sometimes I had trouble falling asleep. Then he would tell me stories about his travels. I want this tradition to live on. So now, let me share my stories with you. There's a pleasant whisper in the air as I gaze off into the crowns of the orange trees. They stand close together as one, forming a canopy that shields me from the hot sun above. It's almost like a cave, a mysterious cave, with a roof of leaves and supports of wood. I feel the cool air in their shade and breathe in the soft floral smell of their fruit. Wandering through the labyrinth of trunks, I'm enchanted by the play of light and shadow and the lulling rustling of the leaves. Unless I'm very much mistaken, the trees themselves seem to be encouraging me to take a break. Well then, I suppose I might as well lie down, I think, as I shrug off my backpack to use it as a pillow. I make myself comfortable between two large trunks and stretch out my legs with a sigh. Above me, the tangled branches wave their lush green leaves in approval. Dotted around the canvas of green, vibrant fruits gleam in shifting colors. Sometimes their orange hue appears yellowish. Then they move into a shadow and turn almost red. They drift around like golden stars in a dark sea of green. A refreshing gust seizes the foliage, shaking one of those stars loose. It lands near me, so I lean over and pick it up. Wow, I've never seen an orange so bright before, or held one that was this heavy. I carefully peel it open and happily breathe in the strong, tangy scent of the fruit inside. Then, just as carefully, I separate out a single wedge and bite into it. Its tart juice is wonderfully refreshing on this hot day, and I spent some time just sitting in the shade, savoring the taste. Once I've finished the entire orange, I stand up with a big stretch. The sun winks at me from behind the treetops, reminding me to reapply my sunscreen before I leave the protection of this grove. Then I brush off my shorts and pick up my backpack, ready to carry on with my day. I whistle to myself, strolling out of my oasis and back into the open. The sky is bright and blue, without a single cloud in sight. In front of me, a simple dirt path stretches across the plains. It's dusty, to the point that I can see little clouds puff up behind me while I walk. I follow this path past flocks of grazing sheep, their bells ringing softly as they go about eating their lunch. Past fields of vegetables and even more orange trees. They stand out beautifully in the sunlight, rich dark green leaves against the dry yellow grass. I admire them with appreciation and run my hand through their branches when the path happens to carry me close enough to do so. The path takes me deeper into the Messara plain, a veritable Garden of Eden in the middle of Crete. Beyond the fields and groves, I can very clearly see the mountains that surround this valley, Ida, Dicte, and Asterosia. It's comforting somehow to be between them like this, as if they are ancient guardians of these lands. I feel protected and at ease. Here and there, old walls pop up along the path. Built of rough gray stone, they look like they've existed since the dawn of time. It occurs to me that they might be made of the same stone as those ancient mountains. Perhaps those guardians have extended their reach all the way down here to let us people know we can rely on them. I smile to myself, thinking about how old this land is. Now that I'm looking for it, I feel like I can see it everywhere. Here is an olive grove that seems born of the sun, with mighty trunks rising out of the earth like frayed tubers, twisted and fossilized, growing crookedly upward. These trees appear just as rugged and austere as the sun-drenched island itself. The longer I walk, the more the heat creeps into my skin. I start sticking to the side of the path where I can somewhat reach the shade of the trees. I'm glad I decided to wear a hat today, but eventually even that isn't enough to keep the harsh midday sun off of me. Feeling parched and overheated, I sink down onto the ground in front of a particularly sturdy orange tree and rummage around in my backpack for my water bottle. I gulp down almost half of it in one go. Much better. I'm sure I'll be fine to continue walking in a minute, but this shade is very pleasant. I lean back against the tree trunk and close my eyes. Just for a minute. There's a refreshing breeze against the back of my neck. The swishing of the trees mingles with the hoarse chirping of crickets. Truly, the sounds of summer. I even think I can hear the ocean in the distance. I focus on the rush of the waves and, yes, I definitely hear them. In fact, I feel like I'm floating on them. It's almost as if I'm back on that little ship that carried me from the mainland to Crete. I can see the old wooden ferry in my mind's eye, comfortably rocking along with me sitting on deck. There's a book in my lap, but I'm distracted by my surroundings. Everything around me is bathed in brilliant sunshine. I watch the water slosh up the bow of the ship and admire how points of light move across the waves like thousands of tiny diamonds. Small clumps of sea foam break apart, drift away, and dissolve. Seagulls call to each other noisily. I follow their flight as they pounce into the water and soar again, circling merrily over our heads. The ship dips down to the left, then the right, and as we plunge deeper and deeper into the surf, I see the weather begin to change. The wind picks up, whipping my loose shirt and shorts around. Clouds begin to cover the sky, and I hear the approaching rumble of thunder. I give myself a few moments to enjoy this wilder, darker side of nature, letting myself be hypnotized by the unleashed elements. Then I go to join the rest of the passengers below deck. Even down here, the mighty forces continue to work. We pile onto a curved bench around a rickety wooden table, laughing merrily when the wind pushes the ship and we bump into each other. The dim ceiling lamps rock back and forth, reflecting the waves outside. An old radio in the corner fills the space with its tinny music. The ship's cook brings us beer and a type of seafood pasta I'm not really familiar with. He smiles, reassuring us that this storm will pass, as all things do. The other passengers and I enjoy our food and exchange stories of our homelands and past travels. Between our various shared languages, we are able to translate for each other, though we do make use of plenty of gestures too. After eating, my gaze wanders over to a porthole nearby. I watch the water behind it rise and fall in huge motions. Sea foam accumulates and is washed away again. I think with amusement that this is the closest I'll ever come to knowing what it's like to be inside a washing machine. Several passengers have begun to drift off, lulled by the rocking movements of the ship. I, too, find myself nodding drowsily. It seems to be between one moment and the next that the waves outside the window even out and the ship steadies. I get up from my seat with a big yawn, roll my stiff shoulders and neck, and head back up onto the deck. And what a sight I'm greeted with! The sea and sky have both turned warm shades of purple, with spots of bright red and orange where the setting sun hits the waves and clouds. The seagulls have returned, bringing along their sharp cries and casting long shadows across the ship. It seems that more time passed during the storm than I'd realized. Already the sun is vanishing into the horizon to my right. Up ahead, in the distance, I can just barely see the faded silhouettes of mountains. As the ship chugs comfortably forward and night sets in around us, the distant shapes grow and form into a curving coastline, almost invisible against the darkening sky. Tiny lights spark up on the island, a soft warm yellow compared to the bright stars in the sky. We slip into a bay between two rocky hills, and the captain announces our imminent arrival in Agios Nikolaos. He told us previously that the small coastal town is named after the patron saint of sailors. The port is lit up with warm yellow lamps, welcoming us like a cozy fireplace after a cold day outdoors. Even in the dim light, I can make out the beautiful colors of the houses, facades of white, orange, and blue, and dark red roofs. I position myself at the bow of the ship and let the ever-widening waterfront approach, taking in the sleeping promenade, the rocking fishing boats, and the last dock workers. Behind me, the ship's horn sounds, and the rest of the passengers stagger out onto the deck. The air is filled with the lively chatter of land dwellers ready to be back on solid ground. The ship drifts to a smooth stop, and we step off onto the stone pier with wobbly legs. We're met by locals, entire families waiting along the edge of the water, cheerfully waving and calling out offers for overnight accommodations. I shoulder my 2 bags, weave through the passengers, sailors, merchants, and vendors, and see a father approaching with a young boy. He says they have a room to spare, and as we head up the hill to their house, he tells me all about this town. It's the smallest provincial capital on the island, he explains, and of course it has the most beautiful beach, as well as Lake Vulismeni, which runs right through the middle of town, and of course I wouldn't want to miss it. The boy leans over with a smile and whispers that his dad loves guests because they give him an excuse to gush about his home. The man laughs, a loud, hearty sound that warms me like the sun. He gestures at the buildings lining the small alley we're passing through and tells me, of course, he loves this town. Who wouldn't? I look at the houses, their colorful blinds and windows open to let in the refreshing night air. I turn around to look back down the hill at the ocean receding into the distance and smile. Indeed, I think, who wouldn't love it here? The rushing sound of waves in my ears, the warm breeze on the back of my neck, the floral, fruity smell of orange trees, the heat of the afternoon sun. I blink my eyes blearily, surprised to find myself lying on the ground next to a particularly sturdy orange tree. Rubbing my face, I sit up. Judging by the length of the shadows around me, I slept for quite a while. But, well, it was a lovely nap, so I can't say I regret it. After drinking some more of my water and having a quick stretch, I get back on my feet and dust off my pants. The day hasn't gotten any cooler yet, but I feel energized by my rest and cheerily continue down the sloping path. A little way further down, I come across a large expanse of raised stone littered with tourists. I climb up the stone staircase to them, only to stop short once I reach the top. All around me are bricks, arranged in squares and rectangles in the dirt, separated here and there by more staircases. These are ruins. One of the tourists I pass by generously offers me their guidebook, and I discover that these are the remnants of a 3,000-year-old palace known as Phaistos. Apparently, there are 2 other excavation sites like this one, each on a hill nearby. I return the book to the kind tourist with a thanks and make a plan to visit the other sites tomorrow. Then I wander through the ruins, reading informational signs where they pop up, imagining what might once have been here and how people might once have lived their lives in this region. My grand tour of Vaistos carries me into early evening, when the air finally begins to cool and I head on down the path back to the docks. I can follow the sound of the waves long before I can see them. But what a stunning sight it is to reach the end of this plateau and see the Libyan Sea stretch out before me. A refreshing sea breeze wafts up to me, and I breathe it in happily. I find a winding path down the cliffs that leads straight to the water. It's such a relief to be able to pull off my sandals and soak my battered feet in the cool waves. For a moment, I consider sitting down and not caring about getting my shorts wet. But then my stomach rumbles and I have to change my mind after all. So I walk along the coast, strolling barefoot across the wet sand. Around a bend in the cliff, the beach leads abruptly to a flagstone path, which rises up at a slight slant to the docks of a little village. The white houses look like they've grown directly out of the cliff itself, their red and blue roofs standing out against the yellow and brown rocks. Right along the waterfront sits a cluster of bars and restaurants. Their outdoor tables are covered by large rectangular umbrellas to shield diners from the last of the sun's rays. I take a seat at the first restaurant I reach, at a small table with a blue and white checkered cloth. I can hear dishes simmering away in the kitchen within. The aroma of wild mountain herbs and fresh fish welcomes me, as does a young Greek woman who smiles knowingly at the sunburn forming on my arms. At her recommendation, I order an appetizer of soft cheeses, a dry white wine, and an unfamiliar dish made with pan-fried red mullet. During the course of my meal, the blue sky fades away into shades of red and yellow, and the sun gradually sinks into the sea. Street lamps flicker to life around me, their warm lights reflecting off of the dark water below. The heat of the day pulses in my skin, and the delicious food settles comfortably in my stomach. Sipping my wine, I think back to the dusty path I took across the Messara plain, the lush plantations I rested in, the ruins I passed through, as countless other people had before me. I gaze out at the sea I crossed to get here, imagining the ancient travelers who first set foot on this island. I close my eyes, my breathing slow and relaxed, and appreciate where I am at this moment. And just like those travelers who sailed off to discover new lands, I find myself wondering where I will end up next.